Hello and welcome to Standard Sports Ashes coverage. I'm joined by Will McPherson at the Adelaide Oval, where Australia are closing in on a second test victory over England come the end of the fourth day. They need 6 wickets tomorrow. England need to bat through the day to save a draw, which will, I presume, we don't give them a great deal of hope, or any hope really, particularly given Joe Root fell in the final over of the day there.
No, it's hard from an English perspective to be too confident that they're going to make it out alive from this game. They're 1-0 down in the series, looking like going 2-0 down. Ben Stokes is the one hope, I suppose. He's on 3 not out, which is what, if you like your straw clutching, that's what he had at Headingley in 2019. But they lost Root in the final over a day, which was a real sickener. Probably not as much of a sickener as he suffered the over before, and about 8 hours before that. I didn't think this chat would be kind of based around Joe Root's private parts, but here we are. He was hit. He was hit before play in the nets by Jeetan Patel, who's the spin bowling coach on tour, and they were just doing the most gentle throwdowns, and somehow something went wrong, and he's taken one to the groin. That was a pretty serious blow that required a trip to hospital for a scan, which I don't think I've ever heard of a player having a scan on that part of their body.
Interesting one.
He missed the first, I think, 78 overs of a day, with Ben Stokes captaining England, and then he returned. He took 2 wickets, and then in the dying overs, he was batting pretty well in really hostile conditions under lights when Mitchell Starc, the Australia's fastest bowler, managed to locate. Luckily, Root was wearing a box this time, but locate that exact area. That we had about a 5-minute delay, and Root was clearly in considerable discomfort. He did last a few more balls. He did score a few more runs, but he was running between wicket, looked increasingly like John Wayne, and he fell to what proved to be the final ball of the day, to a lovely delivery from Starc, really wide on the crease, but he edged behind. So that was a bitter blow for England. And to be honest, it's hard to give them too much chance now as a result of that.
Well, as you say, I mean, looking a little bit further ahead, I suppose the spectre of COVID is increasingly looming over the series. We had the Pat Cummins close contact that ruled him out of this game. There's talk of potentially tighter restrictions for the players going to Melbourne and Sydney. What's it like? What's the atmosphere like around COVID at the moment?
Yeah, I'm in the media centre. There's a nervy atmosphere here. A couple of people have tested positive today or received positive results, which has had major implications for the broadcasting of the game. South Australia's generally had pretty low COVID rates, but we're now heading to Victoria and Sydney, which have got higher rates. Players, we're entering a really tricky little period because players are done with their biosecure bubbles. Both sides, this is not just England. England won for a reputation, but Australia feel that way as well. They're done with bubbles. So the administrators can't tighten things up too much. But the risk of that is, of course, that COVID gets into the camp and then test matches are ruled out because multiple players test positive or multiple players are close contacts. They're limiting the amount they do in groups, but it is very much looming. I think there is some concern that 5 tests might be too many. There hasn't been a 5 test match series since COVID struck. England played India in the summer in what was supposed to be one, and COVID got into the Indian camp at the end of the tour, and it's sort of that was a reminder of how long these series are and how hard it is to keep the show going for best part of 2 months. So we'll see. You've got to be hopeful, but it could be a tricky little period coming up, I fear.
Can't lose 5-0 if there aren't 5 tests, can you? So
you can't.
Every cloud.
Exactly.
We'll be back tomorrow to review the test. Whatever's happened, it'll either be a miraculous, one of the great England draws, or much more likely Australia will be 2-0 up, and we can chat a little bit more about the game itself and the ramifications going forward. But stay safe over there, Will, and we'll speak again tomorrow.